Hey, what's up, team? Marshall Sparkman here, VA loan specialist, coming back at you with another video about, this is the last final part of a 13-part series that I did. It's everything you need to know about VA loans video educational series. So this one is on closing cost and non-allowables. Basically, they call it non-allowables are fees that the veteran borrower cannot pay. Okay, so let's dive into that real quick. The first thing you need to know is the VA considers a difference between closing cost and a seller concession. So for the VA loan, there's no maximum closing cost that the sellers can pay. The sellers can pay all of your closing costs plus some. So typical closing cost is bank fees, title fees, recording fees to the county, the appraisal. A lot of times in certain states, in certain areas, it's common for the sellers to pay title insurance, to say, hey, we're guaranteeing you that you're going to have a clean title policy on this house. So the sellers pay that. And then also there are seller concessions. Now, concessions are maxed at 4%. An example of concessions, usually I only see those on new construction. So like example would be a builder may give you a $5,000 credit towards appliances. So those are considered concessions, and they cannot be more than 4% of your loan amount. So for example, if you're building a $200,000 house, you can't get more than $8,000 towards concessions. So I've never run into that being an issue, but it is what it is. So also, if the sellers are gifting you something, like they're gifting you a nice TV or a storage shed or something like that, that's not real property, that's not real estate. If it's a personal item and the sellers gift you that, it goes towards concessions. The sellers can also pay your VA funding fee. Did you know that? That's pretty cool. So the VA charges a funding fee if you do not have a service-connected disability, and the sellers can actually pay that. Sellers can pay property taxes, they can pay your homeowner insurance, they can pay extra points towards your interest rate. They can pay off credit card balances or judgments to help you qualify for the loan. That's a feature that most people don't realize. Also on the contract, this is really for real estate agents. If you have personal property that's not real property, please state on the contract that it has no value, or else you're going to run into issues with the appraiser. Now, switching gears real quick, we're going to talk about the non-allowable fees. These are fees that the VA says that the veteran borrower is not allowed to pay. Okay, so the veteran borrower is not allowed to pay any fees other than for title work. An example of a fee that an attorney would charge would be if it's a for sale by owner situation where you are drafting up a contract. Most attorneys will do the contract for free, but if an attorney wants to charge you for the contract, the veteran borrower is not going to be able to pay that. It'll have to be paid by the sellers. The mortgage, let me stop right there. If there are fees that have to be paid by the seller, any of these non-allowables, what we do is on the seller side of the closing disclosure or the ALTA, we just put all these fees onto the seller side. If you're in a circumstance where the seller is not paying any closing costs whatsoever, that's the only time you would run into issues. 99 times out of 100, the seller is paying some sort of closing cost, and it's a non-issue. If the seller is not paying any closing cost, and if any of these fees apply, either we have to waive the fees, the lender eats it, the realtors eat it, whatever the case may be. But I never run into these, but you do need to know about them, because I get a lot of real estate agents will ask me, well, there are fees that the sellers aren't allowed to pay, because you have that on your FHA VA addendum that says there are fees that are not allowed to pay. So can't pay it for any attorney fees. They cannot pay a mortgage broker fee. Like back in the day, a mortgage broker would charge a point, or they would charge a credit report fee, something junk fees basically, which nobody charges anymore that I'm aware of. They cannot have any prepayment penalties. Can't have a notary fee. Let's talk about a notary fee. So let's say hypothetically you're on active duty and you're out TDY for some training, and instead of being home for the closing, you want to have a notary come to you to sign all the documents in person. Well, they're not allowed to pass that notary fee on to you. We get notaries all the time that close loans. It's not a big deal. They're just saying the buyer is not allowed to pay. It has to be put on the seller side. The HUD FHA inspection fees to the builders. This is an example of a new construction house. We usually end up doing 2 appraisals on a new construction. We do one before the property is complete, and then one final appraisal inspection when the property is 100% complete, and the appraiser goes out and takes pictures and verifies that the property is complete and up to the VA's minimum property requirements. Typically, they charge about $100, $150 trip fee to do the second, where they take the pictures and upload it to the report. But we are not allowed to pass that on to the buyer. That usually is a fee that the lender will eat, or we build into the initial appraisal. But regardless, we cannot pass that fee on to the veteran. So you will not ever see that on a closing disclosure. You will see it on FHA and conventional deals. You will not see it on FHA deals. All right, this is a big one. I've got it underlined. Real estate professionals commission. So if you've got some funky deal, or it's a for sale by owner, or if you're charging a broker fee or something like that, we are not allowed to pass that on to the veteran. Veterans are not allowed to pay those fees. Once again, that's the fees that we put on the seller side, as long as the sellers are paying closing costs. So if the seller's not paying any closing costs and your company charges a broker fee, or whatever you want to call those fees, any kind of real estate commission related fees that's on your compensation agreement, then the veteran bar is not allowed to pay that. So you'll need to eat it if the sellers aren't paying any closing costs, okay? Termite fees has to be, this is a weird one because the VA requires a termite inspection in most states, where if you're in a state where termites are highly susceptible, like we are here in the South, you are required to get a termite report per VA guidelines. However, the buyer's not allowed to, the veteran borrower is not allowed to pay for it. So that's kind of weird. So the seller has to provide a clear termite letter at their expense. So other than that, that is kind of the main meat and potatoes that you need to know about the real estate transaction, about the fees that can be charged and fees that cannot be charged. Almost forgot, there are lender fees. So our company, we elect not to charge any lender fees to our veteran borrowers. So we don't charge any processing or underwriting fees, that kind of stuff. Most companies charge processing and underwriting fees to the tune anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500. You will find that my closing costs are typically $1,000 to $1,500 less than my competitors, just because we don't charge any of those fees. So the VA actually says we can either charge you a flat 1%, or we can itemize all of our lender fees, like that $1,000 to $1,500 I was talking about, but it cannot be over 1%. So a circumstance where, let's say hypothetically you were buying an an $80,000 house, and the lender's charging you $1,000 worth of lender fees. Well, guess what? That is over the 1% tolerance. So the lender wouldn't be able to charge, he would only charge you a flat 1% fee. Lenders nowadays are not allowed to charge both an origination fee and an itemized cost. So back in the day, when a mortgage broker would charge you 1 point on the front and then they charge a whole bunch of other fees, you're not allowed to do that on VA loans. So hopefully this is educating you. Please like, share, subscribe. I'm licensed in all 50 states and would love to be able to help you with your VA loan. Thank you guys.